TTRPG awards are weird. Over the years, various awards have sprung up within this relatively young, semi-professionalized, largely hobbyist-driven industry, and all of them come with a healthy dose of bizarre decision-making and opaque processes. Today, I want to tell you a story about one particular strange thing going on with the Crit Awards, and what I think we can learn from it. Hi, I'm Michelle, my pronouns are she, her, and I am not here to steal anyone's joy. If you're a finalist in this year's Crit Awards and that makes you happy, that's good. You should enjoy that feeling. I've been a finalist in the Crit Awards before, so has EUphoria, the channel you're watching right now, and so have both the other staff at EUphoria for various other projects they've worked on, and in all cases it felt really nice. I will say the staff here at EUphoria did decide not to engage with the Crit Awards this year. We didn't nominate ourselves for consideration, and we didn't ask our community to nominate us either, and the story I'm going to tell today is a large part of why. But if you engage with the Crit Awards and you enjoy it, that's fine. This is not a story about malicious people who deserve to be cancelled. This is a story about what I think are genuinely well-meaning people who tried to do too much and got themselves into a mess. The Crit Awards stands for the Creator Recognition in TTRPG Awards. Yes, one of the letters in the acronym stands for another acronym, don't worry about it. They are a popularity contest type award. Every year they release a public nomination form which anybody can fill in, and then through a nebulous process that I've never been able to find a very clear explanation of, they select some finalists, and then there's a public vote online for the finalists to choose the winners. In previous years, you were supposedly not allowed to nominate yourself for a Crit Award, although I'm not sure if that was enforced at all. But for 2026, the rules have changed, so now the majority of categories are self-nominated, bringing them in line with similar awards like the Ennies. The awards are operated by Critical Chaos Entertainment, a limited liability company which is filed in Wyoming, USA. Although they don't appear to have any paid employees, the Crit Awards team have stated publicly multiple times that they are entirely volunteer-run and nobody is making any money. The fact that the state of Wyoming lists the company as delinquent for not paying their tax obligations seems to support that no-money claim. The first Crit Awards were held as part of Gen Con, one of the biggest tabletop gaming conventions in the world, in 2023. So they've really only been going for a couple of years, but they've already managed to get themselves into hot water a couple of times. In their second year, the Crit Awards withdrew, or were kicked out depending on who you ask, from Gen Con, following an alleged dispute about the Crit Awards' anti-Zionist stance. For what it's worth, I think it's cool that the Crit Awards spoke out against Zionism. Allegedly, the Gen Con organisers and a lot of other people online disagreed. There have been other controversies too. Sharing of AI-generated images, despite stating they oppose the use of generative AI, finalists paying for promotion, people engaging in nomination trading, i.e. I'll nominate you if you nominate me, and people being made finalists despite not actually meeting the stated criteria. But I'm not going to get into all of those things today. Steve over at Pantsless Tables made a video which goes over a lot of this stuff last year. I'll link it below. I don't agree with everything Steve says in that video. I think he called the Crit Awards the Oscars of TTRPGs at one point, which I don't know about that one, Chief. But he does cover a lot of the common gripes with the awards. What I want to talk about is the Crit Award 2025 prize debacle. In March of 2025, the Crit Awards Instagram published a post asking TTRPG small businesses to get in touch with them, as they were seeking collaborators and sponsors for their 2025 event. To my knowledge, sponsorship usually involves monetary support, though it's not entirely clear to me what that money would be for. The team is unpaid, so it's not to compensate them. As previously mentioned, the awards were no longer held at Gen Con, so the event was going to be entirely online. Although nominees were invited to a mixer event in California in June, so maybe they were seeking funding for that. I know they have commissioned artists in the past to make graphics and logos for them, so maybe the money was to help fund those commissions. I don't have evidence either way on this point, so this is just me speculating. What I do know for sure is that in at least some cases, sponsorship entailed donating physical merchandise. Later that March, the Crit Awards Instagram published a video announcing their first sponsor as Dispel Dice. The video shows 8 sets of polyhedral dice and a giant D20. In April, The Crit Awards Instagram published a post naming Ethereal, Dice, and Atelier as a sponsor, and showing off some cute D20 pins, which the caption said were created for some of our categories. A few days later, another post named Ribbon and Knot as a sponsor showed images of 2 beautiful polyhedral dice sets and said that 2 category winners would receive a set. They did not state which categories. A few more posts were made in May, one which named Material Components as a sponsor and said they would be giving something neat for our category winners, and 2 more which named Storyteller's Forge and Many Worlds Taverns as sponsors, but did not explain what that sponsorship entailed. I reached out to both those businesses personally, and they confirmed that they did not donate prizes but did give monetary support. Sponsorship wasn't mentioned again during June and July when finalists were announced and public voting was being held. Then in August, a post was made listing 14 sponsors. As far as I know, this is every TTRPG themed small business who either gave money or merchandise to the Crit Awards 2025. After that, the winners of the 2025 Crit Awards were announced. They got to have that wonderful, happy feeling of winning an award, and they were going to get some cool prizes too. Right? In May of this year, artist and small business owner Totoroki posted on Blue Sky asking if anyone had received the prizes they donated as a sponsor of the 2025 Crit Awards. They said they sent in around €60 worth of products, but despite emailing repeatedly to ask which winners their stuff was sent to, they hadn't gotten a response. People started replying to that Blue Sky post confirming that winners had not received anything. In fact, at least one winner said this was the first they'd heard of prizes even existing. Toto is a friend and sometimes collaborator of mine, as well as a brilliant artist, so I got in touch with them to get more details. Toto told me that they posted their prizes to a member of the Crit Awards team and received confirmation the parcel had arrived in August of 2025. When they asked in September which winner or winners got the prizes they contributed, they were told by the same team member that they were still looking at the categories and deciding which winners would get which prizes. This was 6 months after they first requested sponsors, 3 months after the finalists were announced, and a month after the winners were announced. Toto heard nothing else from the Crit Awards team until January of this year, when they decided to try posting in the Crit Awards Discord server, which has a questions channel, to see if the prizes had finally been posted. I'm also in that server because I was a finalist in 2025, so I had a look at Toto's post. There they are, replying to a post from that same Crit Award team member saying they were finishing up sponsor stuff in October. Toto's asking if there's any update. No one ever acknowledged or replied to this post. In May, Toto noticed someone asking in that same Discord channel about donating art as prizes for the 2026 awards, and concerned that more artists and small business owners would have the disheartening experience they'd had, they decided to try one last time to get some answers. No one replied. Which brings us to the Blue Sky post, which started to garner some attention, and what do you know? One day later, a different member of the Crit Awards team finally responded to Toto. Now, this is of course just one person's experience, so I did reach out to several of the other people listed as 2025 sponsors to ask them for their input. I didn't hear back from everyone in time for this video, but Dodeca Donuts did confirm to me that they sent in several of their super cute coffee cup-shaped dice towers as prizes. They didn't tell me exactly how much these were worth, but based on the prices listed on their website, I guess it was a similar amount of money to Toto's prize package. They also had no idea that the prizes hadn't yet been sent out. Joanna, the creator of those gorgeous ribbon and knot dice sets, let me know that in September of 2025, she was told her dice would go to the winners of the actual play categories Best One Shot and Best Villain. She didn't send her dice into the crit team like Toto did, but rather was expecting to be put in touch with the winners so that she could post them directly. She was never given any contact details for the winners, and hasn't heard from anyone on the Crit Awards team since September. It seems like the Crit Awards team realised at this point that they had messed up. About 9 months had passed since the 2025 winners had been announced, and not one single prize had been sent out. All of those small business owners were willing to donate their creations at their own personal expense on the understanding that they would be sent to a Crit Award winner and make them happy. Toto sent in €60 worth of merch and paid for the shipping from Europe to the US. The ribbon and knot dice sets that Joanna still hasn't been able to send out sell for about £100 each. Dispel Dice sell standard dice sets for $70 each, and they sent in 8. For individual creators and small businesses, these are not insignificant amounts of money, not to mention the time and artistry that goes into creating each piece. And people had donated that labour and potential income seemingly for nothing. 2 days after Toto's Blue Sky post, the Crit Awards team posted 2 statements on their Instagram page. The first was from the team member who had been corresponding with Toto and had stopped responding in September. You'll note I've not been mentioning this person's name and have blurred it out in screenshots. It's not hard to find out who it is if you really care to, but I want to make it clear that they are a human being who made a mistake and are not deserving of insults, abuse, harassment, or anything of the sort. Find out their name if you want, but be a decent human being and leave it at that. The content of the statement was a bit vague and very self-flagellating. They mentioned some life things they had been focusing on, which had led to them neglecting their Crit Award responsibilities, which included sending out the prizes. They ended by saying the rest of the team, who they refer to as the board, would be handling all of the items going forward and making sure they got sent out. They also said winners would receive an email verifying their postal addresses soon. I know quite a few of the 2025 winners, so I contacted them and asked if they got that email. Several of the people I asked confirmed yes, they did indeed, 10 days after the statement was posted. The text of said email was a shorter version of the public statement and ended with a link to a Google form which had the same text repeated again and then asked for their name, which category they'd won, and the postal address they'd like their prize sent to. Some people told me this apology email was the first time they found out prizes were even a thing. Winners told me they never received a message from the Crit Awards to say they had won. They'd all found out from social media, and no one had ever got in contact with them to ask for their postal address before this point. Oddly, one winner I spoke to said they didn't receive the apology email either. Me messaging them was the first time they heard about prizes, but I don't know what happened there. But let's look at that other statement, which was signed by 3 people who it seems comprise the board. They state they'd only recently been made aware that prizes and trophies were never sent out. Wait, trophies? There were trophies? I cannot find any previous mention of trophies anywhere. Apparently they were new this year. I imagine they'd have been a lovely surprise for the winners if they'd ever actually been sent out. Maybe that's what the monetary sponsorship was for? Again, speculating. Anyway, getting back to the statement, they said all winners would get an email apologising and verifying their addresses. It seems the majority of winners did at least. And they said that as they pack up the prize parcels, they will post photos and shout-outs to all the sponsors who donated the prizes. And they said that all prizes would be sent out by the end of June. It's the end of July. No photos have been posted, no sponsors have been shouted out, and none of the winners I spoke to have received anything. Joanna at Ribbon and Knot told me that when she saw that statement, she expected to finally receive the information she'd been waiting on to send out her dice sets, but she still hasn't been contacted. Meanwhile, the Crit Awards social media channels have been posting about this year's awards. Finalists have been announced and voting is open. Are their sponsor gifts being used as prizes this year? The statement said the board would be taking responsibility for that, but they haven't even taken responsibility for last year's prizes yet. I reached out to the Crit Awards team via the Discord server I mentioned to try and find out if they had any explanation for the lack of progress since the statements in May, and one of the board offered to give me some answers via direct message. The message they sent was very long, and not all of it was super relevant to my questions. There was quite long sections about changes to the board structure and the nomination system, for example. So I'm going to break the response down according to the 3 questions I asked, and show you the sections that answer those questions. I'm also choosing to redact names and some bits of more personal information that I don't think need to be put on YouTube. You'll have to trust me that it doesn't change the meaning of the sentences. First, I asked for any comment on why no prizes had been sent out, despite their statement promising they would be sent out by the end of June. The response stated that the same team member who had previously been responsible for sending out the prizes was still in possession of them, and has continued to have life events such as moving house and dealing with medical issues that have continued to delay them from posting the prizes. This surprised me, as my understanding of the Instagram statements was that the other board members would be stepping in to help. It appears they promised everything would be posted by June, but then did nothing to actually change the situation that had prevented them being sent out in the preceding 9 months. They did say that some winners have been handed prizes in person at various conventions. The names of those winners and the conventions in question weren't provided, so I can't verify that, we just have to take their word for it. Finally, they mentioned that all of the prizes have been packaged and labelled. So Maybe that means they really will actually get sent out soon. That would be nice. Well, here's something interesting I've had to add into my script right before recording today. The day after I reached out to the Crit Awards team and said I'm making a YouTube video and asked where the prizes were, this post appeared on their Instagram saying they'd started sending out the prize parcels. Probably a coincidence, right? But if what it took was me being a nosy bitch who wants to find out to finally get this sorted, I'll take it. No mention was made of situations like Ribbon and Knot, who are waiting to be provided addresses to send parcels directly. Next, I asked what the financial sponsorship that the Crit Awards received in 2025 was used for. The response was that it funded that in-person mixer event in California, as I'd speculated, and will also cover the costs of shipping out prizes, if and when they're actually sent out, and any additional costs for the awards being given. I'm guessing that means that those mysterious trophies might have been funded with sponsorship money too, but again, I'm not sure. They said that any money left would be brought forward for similar expenses in the 2026 awards, which is what they've done in previous years and seems fair enough. I do think you're generally supposed to pay taxes on income that you carry over year to year, but whatever, I'm not a cop. One thing that did confuse me a bit was this sentence about some of the gifted items being used as prizes at the in-person event. That event happened in June of 2025, before the winners had been voted for. What prizes? I asked for clarification on this point and was told that there was an interactive game at the Mixer event, and alongside some stickers and D6s they'd ordered, some of the items that had been provided by sponsors to be Crit Award prizes were used as prizes in this game. They did not specify which items were used this way. Finally, I asked whether there were plans to send out prizes to the 2026 winners, and whether they had sought any sponsorship to that end. This was answered in 2 different paragraphs in the response, so first I'll show you the answer about sponsors, which was in short, no. They haven't reached out for sponsors for 2026 because they want to make sure they sort out the 2025 prize situation first. This was genuinely very nice to hear. They went on to say they did intend to send out prizes to the 2026 winners. They didn't give a timeline, but they said it would be much more timely than the 2025 prizes, which I'd hope so. Then they said something about feedback forms, and then that they did plan to take sponsors again for next year, so 2027. Again, I was a bit confused here, so I followed up for clarification. If they didn't take sponsors this year, but were planning to send out prizes, what would the prizes be? The answer to this was not very illuminating. It amounted to, it might be trophies, but we haven't decided yet. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I said at the start of this video that I want to talk about what I think we can learn from this story. I also said that I don't think anyone in this story is being malicious and that they just took on too much and messed up. I stand by that. I think what we can learn is that it's okay to do something small and simple to make people happy. We don't always have to try and make everything bigger and bigger every year. If the Crit Awards are just a live stream where they announce each person who won, and those people get to post on social media saying, "Yay, I won!" then they have achieved their mission on their website of celebrating and recognizing the achievements and contributions of our community. There never needed to be prizes. There never needed to be money changing hands. TTRPGs are an industry, but they're also a hobby and a passion. And when we're passionate about things, it's easy for us to want to throw everything into it. It's easy to get excited and start acting on every idea that crosses our minds. What if we bought trophies? What if we got sponsors? What if we showcase small businesses by having them send in their merchandise for free to be used as prizes? It's not as easy, or at least not as fun, to think carefully about the logistical implications of those ideas. Who is going to store and package and send all of these things? How long will it take? How much time and money will sending out all of those packages cost? Can we afford that? Do we have time for that? It's a lot less fun to think about how to make things right if and when we do mess up. Who's going to take responsibility for this? What can we commit to doing to making things right? Are the commitments and promises we're making actually realistic? Are we going to be able to do them, or are we just getting carried away again? I think what we can learn is to take a breath and appreciate things that are small and simple in scope. If you want to grow your project and do something bigger, that's a lovely impulse. But we all need to think about whether we're really prepared for that. Constant growth being a measure of success is a capitalist lie. If you've made someone happy, you're a success. I hope the Crit Awards team can learn that. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I really enjoyed looking into this strange little corner of the TTRPG scene, and I honestly have so many thoughts about our awards ecosystem. There's the Ennies, there's convention-specific awards like the UKGE Awards, there's actual play awards sent out through webfests, and they are all very weird, very opaque, and riddled with bizarre stories. If you'd be interested in a deep dive video looking into another TTRPG award, or just TTRPG awards in general, then let me know in the comments. I'd love to yap about it more. Bye for now.